All right, what's up, guys? So, welcome to the iFM coaching training. Today, I'm super excited about this particular topic, and it's 4 ways to create a meal plan. The reason why I wanted to do this is because there's a lot of information out there as far as this is the best meal plan, this is the best meal plan, so on and so forth. And I really just want to try to clear up the confusion as much as I possibly can on what is the best meal plan. So in order to do that, you really have to look at the 4 different ways that you create a meal plan. So, I became a certified nutritionist at 20 years of age. Here I am at almost 42 years old, and I'm still doing it. And so a lot of the stuff has been around forever, and they're just repackaging it and trying to make it seem like it's the best thing. So I've been doing this for a really long time, and I've seen a lot of marketing things that these so-called, gurus or even influencers are using to trick people into buying their program or thinking it's the best, and I don't want to BS you guys. I want to tell you guys exactly straight how it is. So the point of today's training is really all about understanding the 4 different ways that you can create a meal plan. And then you can decide which one do you think is going to be best for you. Okay. So I've broken it down basically to 4 different ways that you can create a meal plan. Now I'm going to keep it really simple. So if you see me looking down, I kind of did take some notes here. I wrote this article, I don't know, 4 years ago. And so I'm just going to refer back to it. But there's basically 4 different ways you can create a meal plan. Okay. And again, I want you to figure out which one do you think is going to be best. So what I want to do is just talk about each one of those different ways, kind of the pros and cons, and I don't want to get too far into it. So let's get right into the first way to create a meal plan. And we've all heard of this, okay? A calorie-based meal plan, okay? It's pretty simple. There's age-old thing, calories in versus calories out. That is a very real thing, okay? If you're trying to lose weight, and I'll say specifically, if you're trying to lose weight, and you're not necessarily specifically care if it's coming from fat or if you care if it's coming from muscle, but if you're just trying to lose weight, the calories in versus calories out concept is a very real thing. That's true. That's 100% true. Okay. So if you're burning 2,500 calories a day and you're only consuming 2,000 calories, okay, you're in a deficit of 500 calories. You will absolutely lose weight on a calorie-based program. Okay. Now a calorie-based program is really simple. If you want to know how many calories you should be eating per day, all you have to do is Google calorie calculator, and it's really that simple. And within minutes, you can have how many calories you should be eating per day. Okay. So a calorie-based meal plan is awesome because literally you can eat anything you want. I don't know if you know about that study of the guy. It was a professor at some university. Don't quote me on the exact university, but he was somewhere in the Midwest, but he did what's called a Twinkie diet. And all he did was eat Twinkies for his meals. And so the point of his study was to show that it doesn't matter what kind of calories you're eating. As long as you eat under that number of calories, you will lose weight. And so that's all he did. He ate the Twinkie diet and he lost weight. Okay. Now it's a little bit misleading because most people don't really understand the difference between weight loss and fat loss. They think it's the same thing, but it's truthfully not. And I've said this before, but I'll say it again. Your weight is made up of 2 things. Your fat and the amount of lean body mass. Now, without going into too much detail, you don't ever want to lose lean body mass. That's your muscle, your hair, your bones, your water, your skin. You don't really want to lose that. So you never want to lose lean body mass. But then you have fat. Okay. So if you combine your fat mass and your lean body mass and you combine them together, that equals your total weight. So a lot of people misconstrue weight as fat, and that's not true at all. So you can lose weight and not lose fat. You can lose weight and lose all muscle and never lose an ounce of fat. Okay. So just, if you don't know what I'm talking about, reach out to me, comment below, say you don't know the difference between weight and fat, and we'll talk about it in more depth in a private message. But I don't want to go too far into that. So this guy ate this Twinkie diet and lost weight. But what it didn't show is, did he lose fat or did he lose muscle? Did he lose lean body mass or did he lose both? They didn't really say that, but it definitely lost weight. Now, you will lose weight on a calorie-based diet if you follow those rules. The problem is you don't know what kind of weight you're going to lose, okay? And that's only half the equation. So truthfully, anybody that's on this, I know you don't want to just lose weight. Now, if you're 500 pounds, 400 pounds, or even 300 pounds, yes, you also want to lose weight. But if you're, 5'10", 180, 200 pounds, it's not necessarily weight you want to lose. It's more fat you want to lose. If you're a woman and you're 5'5" and you're 160, 170 pounds, yeah, you want to lose some weight, but you really want to lose more fat. Okay, so if you're in relatively good shape or maybe a little bit overweight, okay, yeah, you want to lose some weight, but really you want to lose fat. Now, if you're obese and you're 250 plus, then yeah, you need to lose some weight, but most of that needs to be, you need to lose a lot of fat. Okay, so the great thing about a calorie-based meal plan is you will lose weight. And the other great thing is you can literally eat anything you want. You can eat Twinkies, you can eat cupcakes, you can eat anything you want. You're super flexible with the types of foods that you can eat. Okay. Now, again, the downside is you don't really know what kind of weight you're losing. You don't know if you're losing the lean body mass, the muscle mass, and you don't know if you're losing your fat, right? You're just losing weight. Okay. So the only time I really ever recommend something like this is, like I said, if you're really obese, and that's going to be just our first step. Let's just do a calorie reduction. But if you're not in that obese category and majorly obese, then a calorie-based meal plan may not be the right thing for you. Okay. So I hope you understand that. Okay. All right. Let's go on to the second way to create a meal plan. And that's what's called a macro-based meal plan. Now, macros right now for the last 3 or 4 years has been all the rage. Okay. It's like, oh, this is what you got to do. This is how you have to have it. And there's a lot of truth to the things that they're saying. But again, just like anything, they take something that is a really good idea and they radicalize it. Okay. So a macro-based meal plan, just to help you understand it, is basically what they do is they go to that same calorie calculator that you did to create your calorie meal plan. Okay. They get that same calorie number. Okay. And then they do another step and they break it down of all these calories, what percentage of my calories should be coming from carbs? What percentage of my calories should be coming from protein? And what percentage of my calories should be coming from fat? Okay. When you do those percentages, you get what's called your macros. Macronutrients. A macronutrient is carb, fat, and protein. Okay. That's where that name come from. It says, when you hear a macro plan, all the macro plan is they're giving you your amounts of your macronutrients, which is carbs, fats, and proteins. Okay. So all they do is they get that whole number. Let's say it's 2,000 calories you're supposed to be eating. And they say, okay, what percentage is coming from carbs? What percentage is coming from protein? And what percentage is coming from fat? They calculate that and it determines what your macros are for that particular day. Okay. So that's really what the macro plan is they go one step further and they give you your actual macros, your carbs, fats, and proteins allowance for the day. Okay. Now, the great thing about a macro plan is that it is designed for fat loss and muscle building or even muscle retention. It is aesthetically based. Okay. So if you're looking at trying to lose body fat, if you're looking at trying to gain muscle, then you want to follow something that's kind of a macro-based plan. Okay. Now here's the issue. Not all macro plans are created equal. Okay. So as we know that, there's a difference between good quality food, high quality food, and low quality foods, right? We would all say yes, that Twinkies are bad quality food, right? So does everybody agree that Twinkies are not a good quality food? Okay, it's high in sugar, high in processed, spike our blood sugar levels. But the way that macro plans are being taught right now is Twinkies are fine to eat. Like you can eat it as long as it fits your macros. You probably heard that before. If it fits your macros, right? If it fits your macros, you can have it. Okay. Now there's some good and some bad about that, but it's not really telling you the story. It's giving you a false idea that you can eat anything you want and you're going to be fine. Okay. Because the difference between the carbs in a Twinkie and the difference in the carbs in a bowl of rice, for example, is the carbs in the Twinkie aren't really going to help you gain muscle. In fact, the carbs in the Twinkie are most likely going to be stored as fat, and it's going to spike your blood insulin levels or your blood sugar levels and increase your insulin levels and make you store more body fat. Okay. So how it responds in your body is very different. But what you're hearing is, as long as the food fits in your macros, you can have that food. And so that's how a lot of these macro plans are being taught. And unfortunately, that's not the greatest advice. Now, it's a great place to start, but it's definitely not a great place as a general rule all the way across the board. Okay. So the downside to following a macro plan is sometimes a lot of these influencers and a lot of these things that you see, these people online, is they say you can eat anything you want as long as it fits in your macros. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to give you the exact results that you want, even though a macro plan is based and the idea is to either lose fat or gain muscle. That's the idea. That's why they came up with it, because they realized that when you play with the percentage of carbs, fats, and proteins, that you can really affect your fat and your muscle. Okay. Even though that's the idea of a macro plan, you start to go against the spirit of that law, the spirit of the rule, when you start eating things like Twinkies and ice cream and things like that. Okay. So just because it fits your macros doesn't mean that it's going to actually change your body the way that you want it to change, because it's a whole body chemistry thing, which we're not going to get into yet. Okay. So the downside of a macro plan, especially if you're looking at these radical folks who are saying that you can eat anything you want as long as it fits in your macros, is they're not really taking food quality into consideration. Okay. Now, the other thing about the downside of following your macros is you literally have to log all of your food every single day in a calorie counting app like MyFitnessPal, or even, my iFit model app or my iFMCoaching app. We can log our calories using the iFMCoaching app, and you can log your macros, but you have to log your food every single day and every single meal. And you got to see if you're ending up at the total number of macros, carbs, fats, and proteins at the end of the day. Okay. That's a lot of effort and a lot of work, but I'll tell you what, all of my plans that I create are based on macros, but with a lot more layers to it than this radical, you can eat anything you want kind of thing. Okay. But we won't get into what I'm doing just yet. Okay. So anyhow, so that is the issue with macros. It can be really cumbersome to track your food every day. If you're not tracking it every day and you're not being consistent with that, then it's going to be really hard to understand what you are really eating and if you're fitting within the numbers that you need to be fitting in. Okay. And there's a huge learning curve there. Okay. I didn't talk about that. There's a big learning curve with macros. Okay. So that's the second way to create a meal plan, is a macro plan. So we have a calorie-based meal plan, we have a macro-based meal plan, and the third way to create your meal plan is a food type meal plan. Okay. Now, food type meal plan is when you look at people like that are vegan, right? They're only eating certain types of foods. You have vegetarians, they eat only certain types of foods. You even see people like what they call the clean eating diet, right? The clean eating diet says you can only eat these certain types of foods, or you want to eat more of these or whatnot. Okay. Now, on a food type meal plan, you're not necessarily counting calories. You're not necessarily counting macros. You're not necessarily thinking about any of that. You're literally thinking of what types of foods that you should be eating. If you've ever heard of the blood type diet, right? That's a food type diet. A blood type diet is based on your blood type. You should only be eating certain foods, right? There's all these studies. Nothing's really been proven yet, but there's a whole blood type diet book. And if you haven't read it, it'd be good just to kind of look over it to see that is a food type diet, right? If you're type O, there's certain foods that you should be eating, and that's what your body's going to respond to the best in theory. Okay. So these are all types of food type meal plans. Okay. Now, the great thing about it is the foods that you're going to be eating are most likely going to be really amazing food, high nutrient foods that your body is more likely to use for energy, less likely to store as fat, and more likely to build muscle. Okay. So the great thing about a food type diet is you're probably going to be getting some really high quality foods. The bad thing about a food quality diet is not necessarily set up for fat loss. It's not necessarily set up for weight loss. Now, if you're, eat cheeseburgers and pizza every single day, and that's kind of your thing, then yeah, the moment you switch over to eating higher quality foods, better quality foods, you're going to start losing weight pretty fast. Okay. And just because you've changed your meal plan, but the ideology behind a food type diet is not necessarily at all to lose weight. It's just to really feel better. If you're vegan, obviously that's more of a philosophical thing. If you're vegetarian, it's also a philosophical thing, but clean eating, that's also a philosophy. But a lot of that is like internal health. You want better heart health, or you want to reduce, your risk of type 2 diabetes or reverse type 2 diabetes. or something of that nature. Okay. So I really, really love a food type diet. I think that's a great thing. Okay. In fact, if you want to make the biggest impact on your eating, the best of those three so far, the best one to choose is the food type diet, not the calories, not the macros, the food type. If you do that, I don't care if you are really overweight, you're somewhat overweight, or you're in a really good place, okay, with your body or with your weight, period. Following a food type diet, it is going to have the biggest impact no matter what. So if there was one of these three so far that you wanted to follow, I would definitely tell you do that one, because internally, your internal health will be better. You'll be eating higher quality foods. Again, the foods that you're going to be eating are more likely to give you energy, not more likely or less likely to store as fat, and more likely to help you build muscle. Okay. So food type diet is fantastic. Okay. And there's no restrictions as far as how much you should be eating. Okay. It's a really great place to be. So let's go right into the fourth type of diet that you can create, or the fourth different way that you can create a diet. And this is what I call a comprehensive meal plan. Okay. Now, a comprehensive meal plan, I have to pull this out because there is a lot of things that a comprehensive meal plan will go over. Okay. Now, a comprehensive meal plan is legitimately what I do. Okay. You'll see a lot of these, different weight loss clinics, so to speak, that will also do a comprehensive meal plan. Now, a comprehensive meal plan takes a lot of things into consideration, not just your calories, not just your macros. It takes a lot longer. It takes a lot longer to create a meal plan than it would, than just Googling it, right? So a comprehensive meal plan is going to take in your calories. It's going to take in your macros. It's going to take in your food types. So it's going to involve all three of the different ways that we just talked about. Okay. It's also going to take in your strategy. Okay. Truthfully, every person that I work with needs to be following all three of those different types of diets. Okay. The question is when should they be following it? Should they follow, this at the beginning, then this second, then this third? It's strategy. So you have to know the strategy of that particular person and what that person needs to do. So a comprehensive meal plan will take strategy into consideration when it comes to calories, macros, and your food types. Okay. Now, a comprehensive meal plan is also going to take into consideration your habits, when you should be eating certain foods. There's a scientific fact. There's times where you need to be eating a higher percentage of carbs. And then there's going to be times where you need to be eating a higher percentage of fats. Okay. So there is scientific evidence out there, and it's not even evidence, it's scientific fact that nutrient timing when you eat certain types of nutrients really matter. Okay. So your psychology on food is extremely important. In a comprehensive meal plan, they take in your psychology on food. If you're definitely afraid of certain types of things, that needs to be part of why you're eating certain things when you start off. Okay. And obviously foods you like, foods you don't like, your lifestyle, what your exercise schedule is like, are you exercising? Are you not exercising? Those are all things that are extremely important. Do you have an eating disorder, or have you suffered from an eating disorder, or have a bad relationship with food? Those are all things that you have to take into consideration when creating a comprehensive meal plan. Okay. Now, the great thing about comprehensive meal plan is it's 100% customized to you, and you know that whatever you're following, it's what you're following. It's what's created for you. There's no other person on this planet that is following what you're following. It's seriously custom created for you, and you should know that. And as you change, the meal plan is going to change. And as you evolve, and as you get more educated, as your psychology on food changes, then your meal plan is also going to morph. Okay. And that's the great thing about one of these comprehensive meal plans is it doesn't stay the same for the rest of your life. It's going to constantly change. I'm a perfect case of that. Back in the day, 15 years ago, whenever I was doing competitions all the time, I could eat nothing but carbs and carbs all the time, and I would be super, super lean, and I wouldn't have to eat any fats at all. In fact, I didn't eat any fats. But as I got older, I had to start following a more moderate carb and a more moderate to high fat meal plan, right? Because as I got older, my body chemistry changed, and how my body responded to certain things changed as well. So Now, that just doesn't be because I got older. That just happens to be my particular story, right? Everybody's a little bit different. And so with these comprehensive meal plans, you'll be able to go through the different ebbs and flows, and you'll know when, or at least your coach should know what you should do and when you should change it. Okay. So that's the great thing about one of these comprehensive meal plans is it's really seriously customized 100% for you. Now, the downside is it's really hard to find somebody who understands all of this. Like I said, you're going to see influencers online who are going to say, hey, this is the best plan that you need to follow. This is the only way that you should be eating. Keto is the way to go. That's anytime that somebody says the best way is this way, man, you might want to run, because that means they probably only know one way of doing stuff, and that's it. If you're looking for a coach, I would really tell you, you got to find somebody who truly knows all these different dynamics and isn't just creating something just based on the one thing that they know. Yeah, they might know more than you, but do they really know all the things that they need to know and all the different options that you have? So it can be a pretty scary thing to find a coach. And if you're going to do it on your own, you can tell it can get pretty complicated, right? That's why a lot of people hire a coach, right? Because it's super complicated, and it's got a lot of ebbs and flows. But so anyhow, right now, so those are the 4 different ways. So let's go over it really quick. Calorie-based meal plan. Okay. You can just go Google calories, how many calories should I be eating? And you'll find a calorie calculator. A macro-based meal plan. You can do the same thing. Google a macro-based meal plan and figure it out. Okay. If you're only, I will caution you, if you're only following the macros and that's all you care about and that's it, it may not work for you. Okay. So it's a big learning curve. I love macros, but you have to do it with responsibility and knowledge and education. Okay. Again, when I create meal plans, they're based on macros too, but there's a lot of different layers. If you were to look at how, what it really takes to calculate your macros, most people go to about 5 steps to calculate their macros, and that's it. I go through a 20-step process when I'm creating a meal plan for somebody. And so there's just a lot more layers. Okay. But definitely just the straight macro, I don't necessarily think that it's the best option for everyone. Now, it might be a good option for you individually, but I promise you, I've been doing this long enough to know that there is a high failure rate when people just try to follow a strict calorie meal plan or a strict macro meal plan. Very, very high failure rate. I mean, eventually you'll need to get there. If you're pretty advanced, you'll get to that point. But as a beginner, I definitely don't suggest either one of those 2 things. Third type of way is the food type meal plan, right? This is when you're eating certain types of foods. I would say that if you're a beginner, even in the middle of your journey, if you focus more on your food quality and your food types, you're going to be, and I mean food types like, what types of chicken or, chicken breast, brown rice, sweet potatoes. Those are what I mean by food types, right? I'm not talking about carbs, fats, and proteins. I'm talking about the actual foods that you're going to be eating. So if you can focus on the food that you're going to be eating and making sure that your body is going to use it as energy, help you build muscle, not likely to store fat, that's really at the end of the day what you want there. So I would definitely say if you're a beginner or in the middle of your journey, to do that. And then you have your comprehensive meal plan, which is really hard to do on your own. But if you can get yourself to a point where you can have somebody either do your comprehensive meal plan like myself, like any of my coaches that work for me, we can do that for you and really understand what you need, when you need it, and then slowly evolve it and morph it over time. And I'm going to go through the Q&A part of it right this moment. I did a pescatarian diet one time. It was cool, but not sustainable after a while. Like I have a client who is, let's say about when she first started working with me, she was fully pescatarian and she did it for a long time. And then she slowly got out of it. But a pescatarian diet can be sustainable, but it's not necessarily for everyone. Okay. The biggest issue that I see, 90% of the issues that I see when people come in is people are just picking the wrong food types, or they're picking the types that are ineffective. Okay. Counting macros, keto worked for a short time, but needed something long-term. And I'll tell you, keto is actually a combination of a macro plan and a food type plan. Okay. It's a little bit of both. Okay. The only thing is, again, keto in itself is actually really good. I just wrote a keto plan for one of my clients that I had a session with, I should say, this week. And we wrote a keto style plan for him. Now I say keto style because what you see in the mainstream as far as keto diets is like you can eat bacon, you can eat sausage, you can eat all these fatty meats and all this stuff. And, technically that is keto. But what you're not seeing with those things is those foods that I just listed off, those things have high amounts of saturated fat. And, if you haven't done my webinar before on the fats webinar, you'll know that saturated fats, your body is more likely to store them because it's harder to break down. Now you can use them for energy, but it's more likely to store them. But number two, the main reason is really bad for your heart health. That's how you get plaque in your arteries. That's how you increase your risk of heart disease. You increase your risk of heart attack. You increase your risk of developing type 2 diabetes when you're eating foods high in high amounts of saturated fats. Okay. So you got to be really careful with these plans out here, these mainstream or these fad plans. So keto diet is a food type diet, but it's also a macro-based meal plan, right? So some keto is 20% carbs, 60% protein, and then whatever 20% carbs, usually 40. It could be all over the place as far as carbs and proteins, but it's usually 20% carbs is usually what keto plan is. In some cases, even more extreme. So keto can work long-term for some people. And yeah, if your goal is just to lose a lot of weight really fast, at that point, you just cut out everything and be unhealthy, right? And that's fine. And you'll lose weight, right? And then it doesn't matter if you follow a macro, a keto, a Keto, a Dedo, whatever it is, just follow anything, cut out some stuff and you'll lose some weight. But if you're looking at real sustainable fat loss, you got to take a more cerebral approach to it. And it's not just, hey, let me follow this fad diet. You really got to look at a lot of other things. Like I talked about, a comprehensive meal plan is just, what I feel is the best thing for most people because it combines all of those things. And it not only combines that, it combines when you should be following those certain types of things. Okay. All right, guys. Well, I just talked about the 4 different ways to create a meal plan, but I'll tell you this, when it comes to nutrition, one of the biggest things is, especially if you're just starting off, the biggest thing is, the best type of plan for you to follow is the one that you're actually going to follow, the one that you're actually going to do, and the one that you can continue with, right? You don't want to create something that there's no way that you're going to be able to do it for a long term. Sometimes we get so caught up and I want to lose weight right now. You're in so much pain. And I don't mean pain, I mean emotional pain, right? You're in so much pain. You've been heavy, for a really long time, or you saw a picture of yourself and you got really disturbed and you don't really so you're just ready to do everything. And so you're willing to do whatever and you're desperate, right? And I'll tell you, don't do that. I understand, I get the feeling and desperation of wanting to do that. But if you're really serious about changing your health, you're really serious about changing your body composition, changing, dropping fat, gaining muscle. If you're really serious about it to a point, call me. Just send me a message. I mean, you can send me a message directly here and let's talk about it and let's figure out what is going to be the right thing for you and the right approach for you. Because what I don't want is, I don't want people to start following, all these random different diets and then they lose hope. They lose hope on how, eating right just doesn't work for me. Nothing works for me. I've tried everything and nothing works. And I don't want people to get to that point because once you get to that point, it is really hard for even somebody like me who's been doing this forever and is very, very good at what they do. It's even hard for me to pull you out of that hole because you're so convinced that you're broken. You're so convinced that everything out there in the world messes you up. Okay. And I just don't want that to happen. So I'd rather you just send me a message, say, hey, Aaron, can we have just a quick conversation and talk about this? And we can just slowly talk about it. I'm more than happy to engage with you and talk to you and just kind of at least try to set you off on the right mark. But I definitely would encourage that tremendously. All right, guys, it was great. We'll see you next time.